Hi, I'm Alicia Dolan, a Stampin' Up! Independent demonstrator. Thank you for joining me in my Stampin' Corner. Today for our Stampin' Sunday project, we're going to make this cute card featuring the Darling Donkey stamp set. I hope you'll stick with me as we go through the steps. Okay, so here we are at the stamping area, and let's go ahead and get started. First, you're going to need a piece of early espresso cardstock, and this piece is cut at 8.5 by 5.5. So this is going to make a standard A2 size card. So we're going to score this along the long side at 4 1/4. All right. And then we'll pull it out of there. And if you can see that slight fold mark there, we're going to fold it right in half. And use a bone folder to smooth it out. So there's our first piece. Our next piece is going to be some crumb cake cardstock, and this is a leftover piece I had, so that's why it has a little smudge up here in the corner. And we are going to cut this one to 4 inches by 5 1/4. So there's 4 and 5 1/4 this way. And before we get too far, I just want to let you know that I did change the size of this piece a little bit because this one wasn't fitting as well inside an envelope. So the original was 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and this one is 4 by 5 1/4. All right, and our next piece, we need some shimmery white cardstock. I don't know if you can tell, but that has a little bit of shimmery shine to it. And this works well if you're going to stamp and then do a little bit of watercoloring, which we are. And so this piece we need to be 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So 3 3/4 by 5. Okay, so there's that. And we're going to need this small piece of scrap for stamping on, and that's shimmery white. We're also going to need a small piece of early espresso cardstock. We are going to, okay, first we're going to emboss this piece of cardstock so that we get it to look like this. So let me set these other pieces we're going to need aside for just a moment, and I will show you how we're going to do that. This is our 3D Pinewood Planks embossing folder, and this is what's going to help us get that really nice texture. And this time, to add a little bit of extra depth, we're going to open up our early espresso ink. We're going to take our sponge brayer. I know it looks red, but I only used it in the espresso ink. And when you open up your embossing folder, you'll find that there's one side that's more raised and one side that has more, I guess, lowered. So what you want to do is find the side that's raised, and on this one, it's the side that says Stampin' Up! On the outside. So what we're going to do is take our sponge sprayer and we're going to roll it a little bit in our ink, and we're just going to roll it along the raised side of that embossing folder, just to give it a little bit of extra color. Okay, and I can see that the color is picking up on there. Okay, and then we're going to lay our cardstock inside here. And close our folder. And I'm going to set that aside carefully for just a moment so I can grab my embossing machine. And this is the Big Shot embossing machine. It's the previous version of what we have now. And I will tell you that the first time I used the 3D Impressions embossing folders, I made a mistake. There is a special plate that comes with the new Stampin' Cut emboss machine that you need to use with the 3D embossing folders. I don't have that yet because my machine is the older version. And so the first time I went to slide it through, I put this down and put the plate on and covered it up and went to run it through. And not only did I feel like I was going to break my plate, but I also, the impression in my paper was so deep that in places it cut it. So you don't want to do that. If you had the older Big Shot with the plates, you're going to want this plate first, and then this is a rubber mat that came separate that Stampin' Up! Sold alongside this machine. So I'm gonna just double check because it looks like my paper scoots around. Okay, and then I'm gonna close it and set it right on the center. And what I've heard is it's best if you put the folded edge of your embossing folder this way, so that's what I do. And then we're going to slide it forward until the handle starts to turn. Oops. Let's see. And then we're going to turn until it goes all the way through. And then when we take it out of here, it's gonna look like this. So there we have that. And then real quick, we're gonna wipe off the ink that's on our embossing folder because we don't want to forget that it's there and get it all over something else. And I'm just using my chamois to wipe it down. And you can see that ink really did come off of there. And then I just have a little microfiber cloth to dry it with real quick. All right, and I'll set that aside. And then before we move our Big Shot out of the way, I think we'll just do all of our cutting right now. So next we're going to need the regular plate, the I guess the regular that's called a platform, and these are called plates. And then we're going to need our stitched shapes dies. And we need 2 different sizes of the ovals. And so we're going to put this down. And I have a little template that shows me, I cut out before so that I would know where to place my oval. And this is just a piece of printer paper that I ran through the first time so that I would have a good idea where the next one will go. And then we're just going to put this down. And we put our other clear plate on the top. Oh, did it scoot? Hold on, I have to double check. It doesn't look like it did. Okay, and then we're going to slide it forward again till it starts to turn. Run it through. And here's our piece. And here's a nice little oval that we can use for something else later. So we'll set that aside. And we have this. And next we're going to make our circle, our oval, out of early espresso. So we're going to grab one of our scrap pieces from over here. And to make the oval, well, you have to use 2 ovals. So we're going to do the largest size first. And we'll put our plate down, squeeze it together, and slide it in until it starts to turn again. Twist it through. I probably should have moved my mat out from underneath because maybe then it wouldn't slide around as much. Okay, we're going to remove the extra pieces and set those off to the side. Grab the smaller stitched oval and line it up inside there. Put our clear plate back on. Push it until it starts to turn, and you can run these through either direction. It doesn't matter which way they go through, whichever way is more comfortable. So there we have our circle and another small oval that we'll use later for something else. For now, it'll just go in our stash of things. And we are done with the big shot. So when I put it away, I always like to just leave the plates inside it, so then I don't have to look for them the next time. Okay, so now we are done with that. The next thing we want to do is to make a little bit of a raised surface on our oval. We are going to get that die back out, the large one. Is that right? Yeah. And we're going to line it back up so that it sits inside there. And let me see if I don't know if I can zoom in or not, but this is a little embossing tool that comes with the pick your tool. That sounds a little silly, but that's what it is. And what we're going to do is we're just going to run it around where we can feel the ridge of that die is. just around the edges. And I don't want to let it move, so you'll be able to feel if it's in the right spot. It's probably about 1/8 of an inch from the inside edge. Okay, so we've done that, and I don't know if you can see in the video or not, but it makes the inside of this oval stand up just a little bit. Okay, so we've got those pieces. We have our card, and we have this. So now we're going to start our stamping. Let's get our stamparatus. And we're going to put our shimmery white down. I'm going to sit it right on that corner right there. And we'll get our donkey out. And what we want to do with our donkey is just make sure that he's going to line up nice inside of our oval. So here's our template that we used earlier. And we kind of want them to be right there. So our paper is held down pretty nice. And then all we have to do is close the plate, pick him up, and when we go to stamp him down, he's going to be just in the right spot to be inside of our oval. So now we'll take our jet black StazOn and ink up our donkey and get a nice even coat on him. And then we can stamp him on our paper. Oh, it looks like we didn't get his flower quite enough, so we'll just put one little extra layer. And stamp him right back in the same spot. There, that's better. Okay, and we're going to close up our black StazOn because we're not going to use that again. I'll grab my chamois and wipe off my stamp. And because I use StazOn on that, I'll have to use a special cleaner to get all of the black stain off, but this at least gets it clean for now. So I'm going to set that aside, and we are going to color our donkey real quick. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do coloring. I'm going to show you 2 different ways. This is a Stampin' Right marker. It has a fine point end and it has a brush end. So we're going to use this to color his flower. Or her, I guess. I didn't think about that. I'm not sure. So we're going to color the flower and the ears. Just put a little pink inside. Okay, there's that. And then we're going to use an old olive marker to color the flower stem. And next we're going to do something a little bit different because I don't have the Stampin' Right markers that I would need to color the rest of him. So what I'm going to do is take a blender pen and I'm going to open my Petal Pink ink, but first I'm going to squeeze it a couple times in the middle. And what that squeezing does is it puts a little bit of ink on the top. So then we can take our blender pen and swirl it a little bit in that ink and then just color around his muzzle. Okay, and then we can close that one up. And then to get the ink off of there, we're just gonna scruff it a little bit on our extra sheet. And next we're gonna use the Smoky Slate. So we'll do the same thing. Give it a couple squeezes in the middle. And then we're gonna take and we're gonna use this gray to outline around our donkey. So we'll get his tail. And his mane first, because we know that we want those to be colored. And then we're going to go along the tops of his ears. And around his face. And his eyes. And I'm going to give that just one more squeeze because it doesn't seem like it got quite enough ink for what I need. There, that looks better. Okay, and we'll go around his body, down his legs. A little bit here under his face because there'd be a little bit of a shadow there, I think. And using the blender pen and the ink pad does seem to give you a little more control over your ink. You can get as little or as much as you need. Where sometimes with the markers you just get kind of a bold color and you don't have the option of going back. So this way you can add a little more layering, I think, than you can with the others. And we want to make sure we get that little fluff of hair right there. I have just a little bit more around the edge. Maybe just a little bit more up here under his mane. because there would be a little bit of a shadow up there. And then maybe we'll spread that paint just a little bit. That was Rococo Rose. I don't know if I said that or not when I showed you the marker. Okay, so that's it for our blending. And then we have one more thing to stamp. So here's our donkey. We're going to put him aside. We'll grab our Early Espresso ink and our Hey There Friend stamp. And here, let's see, where did I put that little scrap piece? There it is. Here's our little scrap piece. So we're going to want our stamp right there. And get our magnet to hold it down. And here's our Early Espresso. We're going to stamp that. And then we're going to fussy cut around it. So we'll get our scissors. And when you're fussy cutting, you want to move your paper, not your scissors. So we'll try to turn mostly our paper and not our scissors. Oh, I got stuck a little bit there on the old scrap. And okay, there's that. And here's our little scrap of Early Espresso. So we're just going to go ahead and glue that right down. Let's see. And we're going to cut this piece at 1 1/4. Let's see, 1 1/4 by, I think 7/8. So we'll go to 7/8 here. And then 1 1/4 along the long side. That looks just about right. And now I'm going to clean off this stamp real quick. And then we'll be ready to assemble our card. Okay, so let's put this aside. Here's our card base. And our ribbon. And so first we're going to put some glue along the back of our stamped image. This is our shimmery white piece that we stamped the donkey on. And we just want a thin line of glue all the way around. If it gets any real lumpy spots, then kind of smooth them out a little bit with the tip. Then we're going to line that up so that it's in the center. We are going to put a little circle of glue. Well, let's measure it up first and make sure. Sometimes one way is better than the other. This looks like that's the right way. So we're going to put a little tiny ring of glue around the edge. Turn it over. And we'll line that up so that it sits right around there. And it can be just a hair off when you set it down if you're using this liquid glue, because you can scooch it just a little bit without too much trouble. Okay, and then on the back, hold on, we want to put on our ribbon. So we're going to measure, and this is Early Espresso suede ribbon, which is really pretty. So I always lay my ribbon down and try to make sure from the opposite side that it's about the same. I usually just eyeball it. You can be more serious about your measurements if you want to. And I'm going to use my take a pick tool to pick up 2 glue dots. And I'm going to put, actually, I might put 2 on either side just to hold it nice and tight. So one really close to the edge. And one just a bit farther in. So there are those 2. Scooting it too much, okay. There, that looks about right. And I'll just peel the backs off. And then fold that ribbon over. And then we're going to tie a little bow on the front. And when I'm just tying a little bit, I don't cut it off first because it just feels like a waste to me if I have to cut it and then cut it again to make it neat. So we'll tie our bow here and use our take a pick tool. Just stick it down a little bit in the middle, just that. Peel its back off and then just stick it down in the center. And then we'll trim the edges. I think that looks about right. Now we're going to turn this over and use our Stampin' Dimensionals to pop it up a little bit. And I'm going to put one more here close to the oval so that that doesn't. And I think I got that one on this side too. There we go. Just so that it doesn't sink down in the center. And line it up over the top. And you want to line it up pretty carefully because there's not as much give with those Stampin' Dimensionals as there is with the liquid glue. So So there he is, right in the center. And on the back of our stamped image, we're going to stick a little dimensional and just pop it on there. And there you have it, a really cute card made with the Darling Donkey set. Thank you for joining me tonight, and I hope to see you again soon.